WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Vision Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us again. The name of the program is We Should Know. I want to thank all those folks that have emailed, made contact, and talked to us about the program last week. Police Chief Jay Tilley was on. A lot of conversation about that. Believe it or not, some folks didn't realize that Chief Tilley was the new police chief since October of 2012, and we appreciate Jay Tilley for being on our show. Today I want to remind you, if you have a friend or somebody that you would like to call, we're going to be talking about economic development, small business, the engines that drive our economy. Go ahead and pick up the phone, call them, have them to tune in. We're coming to you Tuesdays, 2:30 to 3:30 on WCLN 1170 AM radio, Star Vision TV for those TV watchers. Also 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Star Vision TV, Sampson Weekly newspaper. These programs now are uplinked to YouTube, so if you happen to miss the show, just go to YouTube, type in We Should Know, EDU. You'll see a number of programs that we've already done, and of course this show will be on there as well. I want to thank our guest today, Cliff Ireland with the Small Business Center, Sampson Community College here, and also John Swope, the economic developer for Sampson County. Two big words, a lot of stuff going on. Let's, gentlemen, let's kind of give folks a little bit of information about who you are and what you're doing. As you just heard me mention, you know, sometimes folks will come up and they don't realize, or maybe they just hadn't been listening to this show, and they would know if they would have been, because you guys have been guests in the past years or so. But tell us about John Swope. John, you ended up in Sampson County. You were over in Cumberland County. Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Sampson County's Economic Development Director. We cover all of Sampson County. We are a department of the county government. I myself have been a county economic developer for, I guess 24 plus years. Been in Sampson County now I'm in my 10th year, so time has flown by. As I mentioned, we represent all of Sampson County, including municipalities. We're primarily funded by Sampson County government. We do receive some contribution from our municipalities, and for special projects we were able to raise some private sector funds. We provide a range of services to the people of Sampson County, but our general focus is to expand the economy, create new and better jobs, create a strong tax base for the county to help our county and municipal governments provide the services to the citizens of Sampson County. So generally to promote and grow the economy of Sampson County.
Well, thank you for being here, Cliff. You've been a business owner. You teach the subject and have taught it in the past. Tell us about Cliff Ireland and how you ended up in Sampson County.
Thank you for having me on, first of all, JW, and you would think with the varied background I've got, I'd probably have it straight by now, but I can't say that I do. Yes, I've been an entrepreneur for about 28 years. The last business venture I was in was a printing and graphics business located in Virginia Beach, which I sold in 2001. Along with that, I was in two other businesses prior to that, so if I can tell you about what not to do in business, I'm a good person to come see. The other thing is that I also had a dual role as on a community college level teaching, and also taught several years on an MBA level, a graduate program. I think it's a good mesh of backgrounds, and I've been here, I guess, for about going on my 8th year here in Sampson County. Actually moved down here just to be closer to family that I have over in Bladen and in Craven County, and I just have to say I really enjoy it here in Sampson County. Great people.
Well, it's good to have both of you guys here today. Let's start out and talk about something you've put together here called the Small Business Summit. You guys have worked hard on this, and Cliff, I know this is something that requires a lot of legwork and a lot of detail to pull together. Let's talk about the summit. When is it? What is it made up of, and who should show up at this thing?
First of all, I want to give John a lot of the credit for the legwork. He has really pulled a lot of the details in. But when we started discussing this, and we do this in conjunction, John, the Economic Development Commission, the Small Business Center, we do it in conjunction with the Clinton-Sampson Chamber of Commerce, and we also partner with North Carolina, I can't remember what it's LEAP, but it stands
for Entrepreneur Assistance.
Lawyers for Entrepreneurial Assistance. And most of their services are pro bono if you meet a certain criteria. And we got together, and really the biggest thing that we find out is that we have these resources, and a lot of resources available, but it's just getting it out to the general public. So we thought we could combine our organizations and actually have a bigger impact, which has been proven. This is our third year, John, that we're doing.
Summit, yes.
That we're doing this, and this year we're going to be varying a little bit from what we've done in the past, and I'll let John say a little bit about that, but it's geared to businesses, and most businesses in the United States, 500 and less employees, are classified as small business, so that pretty much touches everybody. The Small Business Center at the community college, which is the operation that I have, does counsel existing businesses, but primarily our 90% of our clientele are startup businesses, and we offer types of assistance and work with the chamber, work with the Economic Development Commission. We all refer and network with each other to do this, and originally we came up with this program, and it was to focus on alternative lending. It's very difficult for startup businesses to find funding. Although on some statistics in North Carolina, 95% of the establishments in rural North Carolina are less than 50 people. In fact, 75% of them are 10 or less people in there. So it impacts a wide variety of people, and I'm a believer that because of the internet and things that are happening through technology, this is actually a great time to become an entrepreneur, even in the downturn. I think the opportunities are more available than what they have been in the past. So part of this is to line up our alternative fundings, and we're expanding on that a little this year. We're actually offering 2 one-hour seminar programs. One of them will be on the most common mistakes that undermine a small business, and the other one is NC Live, which is a database, and it's going to be focused on how businesses can use that. And we're also adding some other guest vendors that I'll let John tell you about on that. But that was the major focus, and we try to tweak it each year to add a little bit more to it. And before I go too far, I'd like to say that sometimes we don't see immediate results. When we ran this in last year in January, which we've done every year, I would have clients come in that may come in 4 or 5 months later, but they would refer to, oh, I spoke to somebody out at the expo about this type of loan or something like that. And so you don't always get immediate feedback from it. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to filter back to you.
Plant that seed, and it has to grow there for a while.
Absolutely.
John, what should a person expect? What time do they need to show up? How do they register? Some of the details on the preliminaries of getting there, and then what should they expect?
Sure. As Cliff said, this is our third one. The previous 2 had been held in 2011, 2012 in January. This one's on January 22nd, Tuesday, from 4 to 7 at the Sampson County Expo Center. We'll have about 18, maybe 20 local, regional, state, and federal agencies and organizations that can provide direct assistance to companies or small businesses or people looking to start up a business. So on one part of the summit, we'll have one-on-one consultations set up like an exhibit, expo, where we'll have tables with all these different organizations set up at their own tables. So attendees can come in, sit down, and talk directly to these agencies. I don't know if in a matter of minutes you'll solve any issues or problems, but they can get that introduction, get their contact information, get some literature about the programs, and then have follow-up. Then another part of it, as Cliff was saying, we'll have 3 presentations. One will be a business financing forum from 5 to 6. At that, we'll have a number of agencies, organizations that provide alternative lending to the private sector. So if you're a startup business and you have difficulty, or an existing business, have difficulty getting financing from the local banks, which is not unusual because banks tend to loan to stronger individuals. As you can tell, if you go try to get a car loan or a home loan, Today, you have to have pretty strong credit to get a loan. Well, small business is the same way, or even existing business. So we will have that financing forum. It'll be somewhat a roundtable discussion, question and answer. And then Cliff was saying from 6 to 7, yes, is when we'll have the 2 sessions on. One is what was the title of that? Mistakes that most commonly made.
Mistakes that undermine a small business. And also the other one was a NC Live, which is a business database, which I'm excited about seeing because I'm always looking for resources to share with my clients. So I will certainly be in that seminar, but they'll be running concurrently. And another thing that always adds a touch of flavor to the event is that we do have it will be catered. There is a meal provided there.
Since the event's from 4 to 7 during the dinner hour, and JW, you know how if you serve food, you quite often get more people out.
Absolutely.
So we do have catering there from 5 to 7 or until the food runs out, and that's been a popular part of the event. And that again during the dinner hour, that people can come out and catch dinner while they're at the event. They can in between talking to organizations or attending a presentation, they can take a few minutes, and we see a lot of networking around the dinner tables, people eating. So that's exciting.
I just would like to piggyback on what John said. What you have is you have a lot of existing businesses come in there, as well as startup business or people that are considering. But the networking aspect I can't emphasize enough because I observe it each year. Local businesses talking to other businesses, and that's great to see because the biggest thing is just sharing ideas. We're all in this together, and as a advocate for small business, don't want to see any business go out. Want to see all of them expand. We want our county to have a good tax base and grow and get back close to full employment if at some point. So,
how many people are you anticipating, John?
Well, the first summit we had about 120. The second one this past January, we had fewer. We probably had about 85, which was a little surprising, but still that's a good number. So we're hoping maybe 100, more or less. We did a survey after the first one in January of 2011 and surveyed all the participants, and of the responses that we got from them, they told us that 96% said they would recommend that someone else attend a follow-up summit, a second summit. So we had very positive responses from the first summit.
We're going to take our first break, and we'll be back in a moment. We're talking with John Swope and Cliff Ireland. Stay with us as we continue this discussion about business and business growth. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the program is We Should Know, and there's a lot of things that we should know. Today, we need to know a bit more about business development, economic development, business growth, what it takes to get there and what it's all about. We've got the 2 people here that are heads of different departments. One is Cliff Ireland, Sampson Community College Small Business Center Director. John Swope, the economic developer here for Sampson County. Kind of 2 different kind of functional areas, but they all kind of come to that same reality of economic growth in one way or the other. We're talking about the Business Summit, January 22nd. Is there a registration fee, John? Is there something that people need to call in and say, I'm coming? Do you need to have a heads up? And if they do, who do they call?
There's no registration nor registration fee, so it's free to the public. We hope as many citizens will attend as can. Whether you're thinking about starting a business or you have a business, or maybe you're in a church men's club or women's club, or you're in a civic club, or just community minded, and you want to learn more about all the assistance. And if we were to only had 15 seconds to tell a message about this summit, it would be there's a wealth of assistance out there on the local, regional, state, and federal level. We know who those agencies are. We want to make sure the citizens have the opportunity to call us, and then we connect them directly with these agencies. And the summit gives them a direct link to those agencies. So 6 months from now, you knew there was a summit, but you don't remember anything about it, or you weren't able to attend, call the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Center, and we can start linking you with those appropriate people at all the wealth. Cliff runs one of the agencies that's of direct benefit to business. So he's one of the resources that will be there and can provide valuable information to small business.
And Cliff, you do a lot of networking, if I understand it, with people when they come in. You can not only advise them and counsel with them, but you can also leverage other people to work with them with whatever business idea they have.
Absolutely. I think John and anybody that works with small business, the whole thing is to leverage your resources. So it really is collaborating with other agencies and departments. The summit is a one-stop shop kind of thing where you can get 10, 15, how many vendors we've got coming in one place where you can kind of do comparative shopping, get a background depending on what size loan you may need. And from the small business standpoint, if you want to sign up for business counseling, that's free. John mentioned there's no cost for the business summit. We will ask you to register just so we can track individuals or track numbers. And there'll be a registration that you'll fill out for the breakout sessions, but no cost involved, right? And the Small Business Center, something like John's mostly funded through the county. The Small Business Center is funded through the state, and it's a separate budget, and we're set up on the campus of Sampson Community College. But we can meet off campus, whatever is appropriate, and generally, I work a 4-day work week, which allows me to work in the evenings with clients if they need that. If they have a full-time job and want to explore options, we can do that. But the collaboration is the big part. And from the Small Business Center perspective, it's the individual counseling. Now, I don't know everything and can't counsel everybody on it, but I may call John about some information it may need. I may call Mary Rose with the planning to see what's going on. I may need to bring in Mary from North Carolina LEAP to help a client with some of their legal issues. So it really is about coordinating resources. So the thing to come out is to come out and make your initial contact and then go from there. As Small Business Center does a lot of seminars. It's like the NC Live that we're going to do. If there's a lot of interest in that database, then we'll naturally set up follow-up seminars on that to bring them to that. The Small Business Center also partners with the Chamber of Commerce yearly on professional development programs, and we've got a Lunch and Learn series that we'll be doing this spring also. So it really is all about networking and partnering.
So January 22nd is the date we need to remember. The telephone numbers, let's give them a couple of telephone numbers so our folks will know if they have a question they can call. Cliff, how do they get it with you?
Okay, they can call the community college. The number out there is 592-7161 and ask for the Small Business Center, and they'll put you in touch with me.
Okay.
And at the Sampson County Economic Development Commission, our number is 592-8921. At 592-8921, and just start asking questions about the summit, and either Janice Wood in her office or myself will provide you whatever assistance we can.
Okay. So let's kind of move. I guess we've talked about this. We want to keep coming back to it. January 22nd, a lot of questions will be answered. But let's talk about business and business growth. One of the things that comes to mind as I think about this, the now governor, Pat McCrory, was in this studio a few months ago and talked about some of the issues that he was looking at, and he's also reverberated those comments since he's been sworn in as governor. This whole issue of education, this whole issue of business, of economic growth. There seems to be a need, I think, for people to understand the economic development side and the small business side. There's definitely a tie-in with each other, but still it's two kind of different dynamics, two, I guess I won't use the word speciality, but two areas of focus. So how does this whole idea, John, when you're looking economic development kinds of things, I think a lot of folks out there will look at this program and see you and say, well, John's been there 10 years and I hadn't seen a BMW plan, or they hadn't hired 500 employees, and there's an expectation, but the reality, help us understand what the reality is when you're involved in economic development and your experience base.
Well, we work with the Economic Development Commission works with a wide range of different types of projects and sizes. A lot of our work goes unnoticed. We work with ongoing with a number of our local industries, and in the last 2012 we had several of our existing industries do some nice expansions. It might only be 5 people, but the bootstrapping is adding 34 people with the assistance of the county and the city of Clinton on some incentives, and the state of North Carolina. So we were right in the middle of putting together those incentive packages at all 3 levels. Several of our other industries have grown. So we are recruiting new industry, new businesses of various sizes. the rule of thumb used to be, and I have a feeling it's the same if not higher, that when you're recruiting new industry to a county, you have to have 100 companies come into your county and look at it before one will land, the general rule of thumb. Now that can vary. You can get lucky or good hard work and improve, and your product be a great product and lower that number. But so there's a lot of visits before you land one. We've had some nice successes over the several years, the smaller successes. We are working with a project that we can talk about later. Sure. That has been in the news, and we anticipate in the second half of 2013 and this year that we'll have some real movement on that project. But that's the Chemtex USA project, where it's a biofuels production facility that would use energy grasses and other non-food crops to produce ethanol. So that's an exciting project that is advancing forward towards a reality, as I say, probably in the second half of the year.
Cliff, when you hear John talk about those kinds of things, I know there's a number of small businesses that I have seen pop up here and there, and in, you know, with the Chamber, with Jana Bass and her efforts in reaching out, these small businesses I see coming to life in the area, whether it's a donut shop out there on 24 or whatever. Are you intricately involved in that? And if folks are listening to this program and they say, well, you know, my cash flow is not really what I thought in the first quarter, I really need to get some kind of direction here, how do you come in with that kind of approach as it relates to business?
I don't think, as John mentioned, you can never get enough exposure. It's always surprising. You do your ads, you do things like that, and people said, well, I've never heard of you before. So I think it's a challenge. Even when I was in business, I'd have people come in, having been in a location for 20 years, and people said, when did you move in here? And I said, 20 years ago. So we just have to face that fact. But yes, the businesses that you're mentioning, those are the type. Unfortunately for existing businesses sometime, and I think this is part of human nature, if they do get into trouble, they wait to come see me or some other resource too late, where they can't be helped. So if you are experiencing cash flow, or if you don't even know what cash flow is, that's what you need to do and come down there. Some of the statistics that I quoted earlier, we've got 85 counties in North Carolina out of the 100 that are classified as rural counties, and there's 98,000 small business establishments in those 85 counties. And there are 230,000 self-employed people that generate a little bit over $8 billion. Now those are 2004, 2005 numbers, so I'm sure they vary now, but that's the kind of impact. Whereas in economic development, sometime you're looking at industry, and we kind of classify industry and small business. Most of the time the separation comes in the number of people that you're working with. The Small Business Center, SBC, has a sister agency called the Small Business Technology Development Centers, and they are on the university level, and they will be part of the program, I think, out there. Yes. And when you look at agencies that really do the same thing, you see that we have different target markets. Most of the businesses that the Small Business Technology Centers focus on are probably established businesses, whereas the Small Business Center, probably 90% of our focus is on startups. So there's just a different approach on that. And we do make an impact. It may be a restaurant opening in Roseboro that starts off with 5 or 6 and moves up to 10 employees, or something like that. A lot of times it's just 2 or 3. Or it may be an internet business that they start online and then have to grow into a brick and mortar location and do other things. But that's where our focus is. And as part of the lenders that are going to be out there, you know, we're talking any loans from anything from $500 to 10 million or 20 million. So don't think that when we say small business, there's not somebody out there that can handle much larger sums, because there are. I think the self-help credit union, which is alternative, is $25 million in the loan.
We're going to take another break. We'll be back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking with Cliff Ireland with Small Business Center, John Swope, economic developer for Sampson County. We're talking about money, growth, jobs, right here in this area. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The name of the program is We Should Know. I want to encourage you to continue to make contact with us. Let us know what you think about this program. If you have ideas for future programs, email us at weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook at We Should Know as well. Also, if you happen, as many of you do, see me out in the community or around somewhere, just stop and tell me what you thought, or up front say, well, why don't you look into getting so-and-so on the show, and I'll be more than happy to do that. And I see folks from different areas. In fact, from other counties, oftentimes folks will stop and say, I heard so-and-so on your show, and give me their comments. I'm very interested in your feedback and would love to hear more from you. Again, that email address is weshouldknowedu@gmail.com, right here on Star Vision Channel 16, WCLN 1170 AM. We're talking about economic development and jobs today. John Swope, economic developer, Cliff Ireland, Small Business Center director. The current governor has made a couple of statements, and one of them is comment, and I'm going to paraphrase here, is he wants to unleash technology and bring back manufacturing jobs. Let's talk about it. I think we understand that we're in a huge technological age now, from everything from even agriculture and farming. I was talking to a young farmer just yesterday, and he was out in the field working with a piece of equipment, a kind of an odd-looking piece of equipment. You got to remember, I come from the old days of a 140 farm-all tractor, and he's out there on a piece of equipment, and it was kind of strange. And everything is now technology-based. And as I was talking with Christopher Naylor, he was explaining to me how this particular piece of equipment operated, and quite frankly, a person like me couldn't got into the thing and even got it from one end of the field to the other. So technology is affecting everything. Yeah. The manufacturing that the governor alluded to, how does that parallel, John, from the economic development side? What does that say to you as a developer? Does it tell you to move your sites in one direction or the other, or is there some other message that we should get out of that?
Well, first it tells me that our new governor and his administration will have a focus on economic development and believe, as I do, that manufacturing is still strong in the United States and can continue to be strong. However, the United States, and individual counties are in competition, whether it be other countries, other regions of the U.S., or other parts of North Carolina. Sampson County is in competition. And whenever you're in competition, you have to provide the best product, the best service. In this case, that also includes skilled labor to suit the needs. As you mentioned, in the technology aspect of whether it's farming or manufacturing, there really are no low-skilled jobs anymore. There may, some jobs are more high-skilled, but in most jobs today, you're probably working a computer, or you need to have some math skills in order to operate your machine or a computer. So education is a vital part of that, but it's encouraging to see the emphasis on economic development. The governor does have an economic development background in that when he was with Duke Power Company, he did work in their economic development department for a number of years. So that's encouraging, and we feel like he's put together a good team. And he and the legislature are looking at the state, whether it's be taxes or structure or how things are done, to make us even more competitive. And I think that's healthy. We all have to look at ourselves and decide, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector as we are, and see how can we do our job better. And so this gives us a new look, a refreshing review of North Carolina's economic development priorities, how we do it. And I'll conclude these few comments by saying North Carolina is an absolutely great product. Sometimes we take it a little bit for granted. Of the states in the United States, North Carolina is at the top, and for a very good reason. But we still have to remain competitive. We cannot sit on our laurels. We have to be able to, whether it's sites and buildings, labor, education, utilities, a long list of things that companies need, not want, but they need. And again, it's competition. Who can provide those various aspects of a location decision better than the competing county, city, or state?
One of the big issues, and either one of you can speak to this, but one of the big issues has been, not only from Governor McCrory, but some other folks as well, is the regulations, government regulations, and how it impedes business and how it progressively sometimes causes businesses to fold in some cases. What are some of those regulations that we need to get rid of, and what can you speak to maybe some things that you've seen that would be a benefit to helping businesses grow that maybe the government is kind of getting in the way?
Well, I'm not an expert on the individual regulations, but I do hear that from business and industry. As county developer and developing land, we run into it on all the regulations that are required to develop a piece of property. If you're going to develop a site, you have to do archaeological, historical findings. They have just ratcheted up, increased the analysis that has to be done on a site, where that now you have to pay to have an archaeologist, historian, go out to the site and do a grid path search, digging up soil, looking for arrowheads or findings from the past. Now, if you find something significant, obviously that's important, but they're increasing the cost, increasing the time that's required, and by and large, most of the time you don't find anything. It's just more cost. You look at the wetlands requirements, and the negotiations and mitigation of wetlands cost a fortune to utilize wetlands, and they're very limited in your ability to do that. Then you get into the archaeological, historical wetlands, then you get into endangered species and other types of requirements just on a site, that it really is hindering the ability to develop land. And if you're a private landowner, you may have run into that yourself as far as you're wanting to use your property and develop it. But that's something we have to deal with all the time. Now, on the business sector, Cliff, you may be able to discuss this more since you were a private business person, plus you work with small business. But for everything I hear, it's overwhelming, the amount of paperwork required or the cost of me complying with state and federal requirements, and they're not going down. You would think at some point the state and federal government would plateau and say, we've got about all the regulations we need, we'll ratchet them, we'll add a few, but the last several years, my understanding is they've gone up significantly. And so it's killing business in this country. And as equally as important is our competitors, especially the countries that are developing and that have lower costs than we do, they don't have these regulations. Now, are they needed or are they not needed? A lot of them are needed, and we support those. But the ones that aren't needed is hurting our business and industry. And in the competing countries, they don't have those. And so our companies have more increased costs at complying with all these regulations as compared to China, other Asian countries, third world countries that are growing, that have lower costs than we do. Our companies are at a disadvantage because of that.
Well, I think one of the things that the average person can relate to out there is just, additional taxes and leverage of taxes on people. Well, businesses just have large numbers of taxes they have to pay. So, Cliff,
I think
you
the
have to say?
Focus is as John mentioned, there are barriers, and most of them have to do with costs. It's right. It's a lot of times to protect ourselves and others. But in doing that process, it eliminates us in a competitive advantage sometimes. And there's a lot of regulation. I often put people in contact with the state that they need to check it first. I know John's run into situations where somebody had purchased a piece of land, actually buy it because they want something to do it, and they get it, and then they find out that it can't be zoned for it. So it's just more complicated. You can't be a tax expert now. It's almost a necessity that you have a CPA or an accountant manage some of your books and stuff like that, because you can't keep up with it, as well as the legal. I always tell people they need a good accountant, they need a good an attorney, and they need somebody in the insurance industry that need to work in partnership to make sure their business can function out there, because there is layers of it's pretty easy to start a business, but what you do is you make mistakes because you don't get any depth on it.
It's clear. You've heard this terminology before, that it's a business friendly government, or a business friendly county, or a business friendly state. How do we make that business friendly here in southeastern North Carolina? I know, John, you work closely with the Southeastern Economic Development Board and those kinds of groups. Are they looking closely at removing some of these barriers, not only for companies but business? And sometimes when it's hard for me at least, and I'm sure everybody else out there, to kind of separate between business and economic development, because basically you're developing businesses. They might be on a somewhat of a larger scale sometimes than maybe Cliff, but do they look at that and say, well, look, we don't really need that taxation, or we don't need that regulation, and leverage their resource pool to make a change in that?
Yes, we do need to look at that, and the southeast region of our state, we don't have the authority. When I say the South, the economic developers and the regional economic development organization, we don't have authority or leverage or control those type of aspects. But what we try to do is develop good sites, have our industrial available buildings ready to market, have our demographics ready, provide good service to clients, to prospects. So make ourselves more competitive in that light. We also communicate on that state and try to, on the federal level, trying to explain that, okay, we need to have reasonable taxes. We need to remain competitive. We need to have good incentive programs. And that's a whole nother subject, is on incentives. But so yes, we do have to look at what our competitive position is, whether it be on a county or a region or state, as well as on a federal level, and what is keeping us from getting there. So we have little authority or control, but we do need to, as ourselves, be working to be more competitive, or as competitive as we can be.
And Cliff, with the small businesses, I know you work on a state level, and your network with other small businesses throughout the state. In your meetings with those people, do you hear a lot about this regulation issue and whether it's a friendly?
Well, it's a common concern in the state. Now, I think for the last several years, North Carolina is ranked in the top 10 of business-friendly states. But there's a lot of factors that go into that. Sometimes it's, as John says, you have to be competitive. Can we offer tax advantages to industries that move in? And those types of things. So it's the criteria, but that's what we have to look at.
Well, we're going to take another break, and we're talking with Cliff Ireland, Small Business Center Director, also John Swope, the economic developer here in Sampson County. And surrounding counties that listen to this program, we encourage you to tune in for our last segment today. Keep in mind, the name of the program is We Should Know. You can contact us, weshouldknow.edu@gmail.com. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the program is We Should Know. Contact us via email, weshouldknow.edu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknow.edu@gmail.com. Just send us a note, a comment, an observation. Let us know what you think about this show or any other show. The show is now being uploaded to YouTube. You can go on YouTube, just type in the space there, We Should Know EDU. It'll bring up the shows, several shows we've had in the past. Some of the shows like today will be online this week. So if you happen to miss us anywhere you are in the world, you can pull it up and hear what's going on in southeastern North Carolina, Sampson County, Duplin, the surrounding areas. Even folks pick us up in Wake County, Tuesdays 2:30 to 3:30, 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Star Vision TV. John Swope, Cliff Ireland's with us. We're talking about economic development, small business, a number of issues facing business and business growth. Not to say that these are the only ones, but healthcare reform, increased cost in commodities, and knowing when to seek financing has been touted as three of the key issues in 2013 that's facing small businesses. Now, when we look at healthcare reform, we've had on this show the Commissioner of Insurance, we've had his folks over the past year talk about the entire details. It seems, I don't think we could do it in 2 or 3 hours, but we've talked about healthcare reform. How does healthcare reform impact business, employability? Is there positives, negatives? What's your sense that you're hearing out there?
Well, from the industry aspect, we have had over the last couple of years, as healthcare reform and other federal level initiatives have been either discussed or initiated and approved in Congress, we've had major companies visit Sampson and other southeast North Carolina counties, and we would hear from them that they are very concerned at the cost these various programs are going to create for them, and that it will make them uncompetitive or less competitive with the other countries around the world. And make no mistake, just about every product that's made is made somewhere else also. And so we're in competition, and a lot of these other countries do not have the level of either taxation, regulation, cost healthcare costs as far as these programs that the U.S. has or will have in the near future. So that does make us less competitive as a country, and that's very important. If it costs our manufacturers to produce a product and it costs more to put it on the shelf than it does the competitor's products are going to sell more because people are looking for lower cost. So that is very critical, and it's just not, people might think that it's a greedy business trying to make more money. No, they're looking at every single penny, every nickel and dime that it costs them to make their product, and to be put it at a competitive disadvantage is a real hindrance to the creation of jobs in this country.
And we have people in this county in manufacturing jobs. I guess we should probably make that clear in Sampson and surrounding county that's in the manufacturing jobs there. So it would be a huge impact for us for any one of these manufacturing jobs to go offshore.
Yes, absolutely.
Cliff, how about small business? When you're talking with folks from small business and you hear healthcare reform issues and the mandates. I mean, these are federal mandates that are coming down now that people have to do certain things. And I know there's a ceiling on the size of the business, but
Right.
do you hear comments about that?
Well, a lot of the small businesses with very few employees will be exempt to some of this. But it's still a concern as far as health care goes, because like John says, we as a state compete against other states on trying to bring in industry. A small business competes with other businesses in trying to draw good employees, good talent into their organization. So it's part of the benefit package. Unfortunately, most traditionally small businesses initially are not able to do that until they move to a certain level. But we don't even understand the full impact yet. I think every day on the news, or at least every week, I see somebody come up and said, I have no idea where this will affect you. You read about a location that has several franchises of a Wendy's that's keeping their employees under a certain amount so they don't fall into another category. So it is changing the landscape of business, and it's such an expense that people have to be concerned about it.
It's a huge issue, and again, it's touted by some folks as being the #1 issue facing business and business development in North Carolina or any state. And we talk about increasing commodities. You know, somehow I always watch things, and it comes back to agriculture. The Department of Agriculture issued a few months ago that in going into 2013, commodities, whether it was cotton or whether it was coffee beans, that these commodities are going up anywhere from 3 to 4%, depending, and maybe even more than that. These things affect business. I mean, even the break rooms at industry break room, if you're supplying coffee and it increases, as you just said, John, they're looking at every increased commodity. So talk to us about commodities as you're seeing it from a business development and an economic development point of view, either one of them.
Well, and commodities just aren't agricultural commodities. Then you look into the price of steel or concrete or other construction materials, or materials that go into products themselves, plastics, and what makes the plastics, resins, and all that. Yes, it does increase cost, and again, it's a matter of competitiveness. It's a world market today. I remember back in the 90s, we were talking about a world market and the world competition, and that was nothing compared to today. Today, it truly is. And our local companies that 20 years ago would not even think they were competing with overseas companies, today they are. And of course, some of them are doing business overseas. So yes, there's a reverse to that. So yes, commodities are an important part, because every part that goes into a product or a service, every cost is important. And many people think, well, you just pass it along to the customer. Businesses really try not to do that, because if they have to do it, but their competitor here in the U.S. is able to not do it, again, they're at a cost competitive disadvantages, and it really makes a difference in the survivability, profitability. Now, many people think, well, big businesses just can take less of a profit. Well, big business is made up of investors, and so you or I or Cliff may be an investor in a company, and last year we might have been able to have a nice return. I'll just make up a number, let's say 5% return on my investment. Well, this year, if it drops down to 3%, I may have to scratch my head and think, I didn't get as good a return out of that company. I may have to put my money in another company. So the investors are the ones that get the return on the investment, on their investment in a company, and we're the investors. You know, people look at corporations and think it's this big building and the building's making all this money. No, it's the individual investors, and if we don't get a good return, we're looking elsewhere. So companies are very hesitant to increase costs, make themselves at a competitive disadvantage, because they're afraid their profitability will go down and the return on investment to investors will go down, and that affects their growth, of course, their ability to compete.
Cliff, small business people or business people in general are very agile folks. They know how to move. They know where to go to get the most bang for their buck. And as John was just talking about, they tend to go to those locations. They tend to seek out those commodities. Financing always comes in as an issue. A lot of companies are saying we don't want to borrow money right now because we're not sure what our leverage is on the future. Although it's hard to borrow, you got to have a lot stricter responsibility now on borrowing. What's your sense on that?
Well, I think you just said it in a nutshell. I've had at least 2 clients in the last 6 months that I had originally applied for some additional funding, made it through the first level and was approved for it to go ahead and submit the remainder of their business plan and application. But they decided that they would wait because it's kind of unsure as to what's going on. There's a two-edged sword out there. Technology has changed the landscape of how business operates and looks. The consumer, and as well as other businesses, are aware of prices and the competitive nature of it. The margins are a lot closer. The hallmark of a small business has always been, like you said, to be agile, to be able to change. Unlike a larger company, because of the bureaucracy, they may have more time and not be able to do that. So, you know, we do have manufacturing that is growing here in the county. We were just out at G.H. Wilson Manufacturing, and to find out that he's does components for John Deere, does components for Electrolux, and we have a lot of those small. So we are a global and a national involved, and the nice thing is business can compete outside of the state, and they're not limited geographically. The challenge is that the margins are less, and you have to be aware of them.
Got a couple of minutes here quickly to do a wrap up. John, I'm going to turn to you. Anything we might have missed that you want to point out? The Business Summit again, give us January 22nd to date. Give us your number. You mentioned ChemTech. Hopefully that's something that's going to come to positive fruition here in the county. Anything you want to address? I'll give you about a minute or so.
Sure, yes. Well, again, the Small Business Summit next Tuesday, January 22nd from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock at the Sampson County Expo Center, and that phone number at the EDC for additional information is 592-8921, 592-8921. And let me kind of conclude on the work of the Economic Development Commission. As I mentioned earlier, we do a wide range of work and work with a wide range of companies. In the past couple years, as a result of the summits, we have had working opportunities with small businesses in Sampson County to help them either get started or grow. So we work day to day with small business. Now, our role is to get them connected to incentives or other programs, or introduce them to the Small Business Center or other agencies. We also work with all the way up to the ChemTech type projects that should become a reality in the second half of this year. We are working with them on a daily basis on a number of aspects of developing this project that are required. So from financing to site development, utilities, just a wide range of things that we're working with them. And a project like ChemTech, what we call an impact project, is going to be a $90 million taxable investment. Total of about a $200 million project, but taxable property tax is $90 million. 65 jobs at an annual salary of $48,000 per year. So those type projects will have a real impact on Sampson County.
Cliff, about 15 seconds to wrap up.
Be contacted at 592-6172 out at the community college. We've got programs coming up. We've got an entrepreneurial boot camp that starts on February the 2nd. You know, our focus is small business. Give us a call.
I want to thank both of you guys for being with us today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us next week. We have a program lined up for you. We look forward to seeing you And the name of the program is We Should Know. Contact us, weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. We'll see you next week on the radio.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question or comment regarding this or any episode, please send your email questions and or comments to jwsimmonsedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday afternoon beginning at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.